In this episode, we're going to learn how to do some Japanese maple leaf plucking. So welcome back, everybody. So what we're going to do on, this is actually part 2 of early spring maintenance. The video before this is actually cut most of the inner nodes down to the first node or second node, depending on the location, to really push back that ramification at this point. As early spring starts hitting, when warmer temperatures do occur, you're going to start having what we call leaf break at this point. Okay, and your goal at this point is to really be on top of it. I actually skipped about a day and a half because of construction at my house right now, and some of these nodes are actually too long. And what happens is after the first leaf, so you have two true leaves that pop up, and then you have this third, or the growth that comes in the middle. Okay, and those growths in the middle, after the first two buds have a new bud that pops up in the middle, you're supposed to pluck that out. So the inner nodes between the branches are shorter, and your goal in a refined tree, this is really done only for trees are in refinement, or you're really trying to slow down or balance that strong growth on top, is to remove that growth, the new growth from the middle of the two branches, or two true leaves there, to slow down or to reduce the inner node length. If you look at some of the really refined Japanese maples, you'll see some of these inner node lengths are really short. I mean, a couple millimeters. And you can see mine, they're really long because I'm letting them grow, trying to strengthen the bottom branches. So really this technique is done to control or to really redistribute energy, and then to really shorten the inner node. So let me turn the camera around so you can show, this is really short. It's a lot of work, and it's really just timing, just getting on top of it. But let me turn the camera around so you can see what I'm doing and what you're looking for. All right, so ideally you're looking for something like this. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see. Okay, so ideally looking for something, you have two true leaves and then the inner growth in the middle. Okay, and what you're trying to do is, a pair of tweezers, is to pluck that middle growth. And what happens when you pluck that middle growth out is the inner nodes, okay, these growths in between the lengths, will be shorter. So you can see there's a really short node right there. That's because it probably got plucked earlier in the season. If you let them grow, they will extend. The longer you let them grow, okay, the longer you let them extend, the longer that growth will occur. And so imagine doing this type of plucking, okay, and you're trying to grab as much. It's really tender, so a tweezer, your fingernail, okay, can really just get it done. I'm sorry, I'm not off camera there. Okay. So you do it with your fingernail. And once you do that, okay, these leaves will continue growing, but that inner node in the middle will stop growing, okay? And you have these really short inner nodes instead of these really long ones, okay? So yeah, that's your goal. Okay? So this is you can see this is a much later one. See this one, how long that inner growth is? That means that node back there is gonna be pretty long. That's it. And this is just a test of patience here. And dexterity. So again, so what happens if you have it, see, so this, here, see this one? That long, see how long that node is? Okay, that I missed it. So that means this node right here, right behind it, it's gonna be really long too. So I kind of miss opportunity. So it's okay, you can just pull it, and eventually, when you get a secondary growth, and your job is not to break any of those leafage. So that's that process of pinching leaves. So you have to watch it like a hawk, especially at this stage, where they're pushing, and when they all push, they all push. I mean, and then it's just a race. Sometimes you won't get it as short as you want it, but a little patience. You just gotta make sure you grab the nub. Okay. And I'm gonna do this for the entire tree. So what I'll do is I'll go in and I'll inspect, make sure the 2 leaves are out. If I don't see the 2 leaves, I'll leave it for it to push growth a little more, like that one's this. Sorry, I'm off camera there. Okay, what you're doing here is really redistributing that energy. And you want to do this to the top. I'm doing the bottom because it's just easier for you to see. Let me change this angle. All right, so you see, this is the top growth. You can see there's 2 true leaves, okay? And then you're gonna pop the middle out. I'm gonna make sure there's no internodes there, okay? Same thing with this one. You see the growth is a little long. I missed it. All right, I'm gonna do that to the entire tree. So let me zoom out a little bit. So you're gonna do this to the entire canopy. I usually do it to the top 1/3 of the tree. You gotta understand that, you know, the top of the tree is gonna be the strongest, and that's receive the most light, most oxygen exchange. Photosynthesis occur mostly on that top region. It's gonna be the strongest. So I really concentrate that leaf plucking on the top section. So I wanna reduce that internode length for Japanese maples. You could do this with trident maples, but it's not as effective, I found out. But you can still use the same technique to shorten those internode lengths. If you go on vacation, if you miss this opportunity, you're gonna have some longer nodes. Professionals in Japan, they're like on it, like every day they're plucking, and they have a couple 100 trees to deal with. So you can imagine the amount of dexterity and time that these people put in. You can see I'm just plucking my finger right there, and they're really tender. I mean, you don't need a tweezer. I like the tweezer because it's a little more accurate, but you really don't need it. So I'm gonna do this to the rest of the tree. Give you about like maybe 20 minutes to do this tree just effectively and quickly. And then I'll show you the final product and we'll wrap up. So, and here's an example of when you're doing leaf plucking, and this is before the bud back. This is a different Japanese maple. I think this is a Kashima, but if you look at the nodes, this is leaf plucking. If you're doing consecutively, you can see the internodes are really short. When they get out to the end, they're extremely short, and that's with leaf plucking. And this one's a really big tree. If you haven't seen this one, this is a good 3-footer, but that's taking me several hours to get to. You can see my hand size. I mean, the nodes are really short compared to the other tree, but this is the same technique of leaf plucking done to extreme. I kept on this tree almost daily to make sure the nodes are really short. So again, this is kind of the product that you can get if you were. I mean, you see, this is only one branch, and this whole entire tree is like this. So it's just getting and keeping on it.
And it's kind of the fun part. I mean, maples, a lot of people said there's not much work to it. Springtime is probably the heaviest time when you're working on some of these trees. And then again, as the defoliating or the outer canopy down into 50% or leaf cutting later in spring. But yeah, this is a technique. So let me go back to the other examples here.
Quick wrap up here. Again, what your goal is really to go after the first, once the two true leaves are popped open, you're trying to pop out that center growth, and you're just going to pluck that center growth out as much as you can. And of course, if you miss it, it's not the worst in the world. That means your interlobe growth will be a little longer than normal. But it's a technique that you can use. Sometimes I forego this technique sometimes because I totally miss the window, and I'll just let everything extend and I'll cut everything back to an inner node that I want to. So there's multiple ways to manipulate your Japanese maple, and leaf plucking is one way. So again, two things you need to do in spring, of course, is to kind of cut everything back to the silhouette you want, going back to that one or two nodes, and getting back down to only two intersections, not three or four. And then after that, you're gonna let the buds break out, and you can start pinching them back. And you only do this technique towards refined trees. You don't do this to trees that you're trying to grow, because it's growth and it's girth rate in this case. And some of the branches, you want to girth your branch, you don't want to do this technique because it'll slow down that girthing of that branch. Another thing to note, this is a kiyohime, so this is a dwarf variety by itself, but certain ones like the lionhead or shishigira, where the inner nodes are short to begin with, you're going to actually do the opposite to this to get those inner nodes to lengthen. So instead of plucking the middle one, you're going to pluck the two true leaves, and you're going to let that extend out. So it's a very different technique depending on the type of species you got. But if you just have a regular Japanese maple or like a dwarf variety, this particular type, this kiyohime or shiyuhime, you're going to use this technique of this leaf plucking to reduce the inner node length. Also, what you're doing in this case is you're reducing the amount of leaf that will show up. So right around mid-spring, when all this is hardened off, I'll go back and depending on the sunlight requirement, I will reduce the canopy about 50%. So I allow more light, more air to go through this tree. But that's much later in the season. But right now, for you people, if you're doing leaf plucking, this is really the tender type of the time of year. Excuse me. If you reach any temperatures above 90 degrees or 80 degrees, 100 degrees, these tender leaves will fry. So it's really a catch-22 how you take care of these trees at this point. But with this technique, I'm getting much shorter nodes. It does work. You just got to be on it, and that's the hardest part. And again, if you miss it, it's not the end of the world. Once everything hardens off, you can cut back to the one or two nodes, and you just have longer nodes like I have here. But this is how they use this technique. So if you guys like this really quick video and tutorial, like and subscribe, leave some comments, and see if it works for you and what have you done differently. And if you have tried this technique on other trees like tridents or other maples, and does it still work with that? Okay. Again, thank you so much. I'll see you guys later. Thank you. Bye-bye.